Hi.
All right. Hey guys, it's Kendra and Liberty, and we're back with another real, raw, and related conversation for you. We were just commenting on how our hair was really distracting for us. So if we're getting distracted in our life right now, we're just really focusing on this. So we can, if you're only watching the audio, we can see each other, we can see ourselves right now. So that can kind of get in the way. So talk about self-judgment and self-criticism. Hey, maybe that's the place to start today, Lib.
Right. There's nothing like staring at yourself in the mirror for 30 straight minutes, trying
Yeah.
to make sense about big, heavy life stuff that'll bring up every possible insecurity to the surface.
Yeah.
Like it happens. It's a really natural, a right minefield for that, I think.
Yeah.
So we don't really talk about that very much, actually.
No.
But it is there. Like
Hmm.
when I'm looking at the screen, I'm actually trying just to look into your eyes so that I'm not having to look into my own constantly. Because when I do, I'm okay for a few minutes, maybe a minute, a second, but then I don't know why. I wish I could. Maybe that's the work of this recording, is like to grow a
Yeah.
little bit there.
So are we
Yeah.
going to look at each other or should we look at ourselves?
Do you want to try this looking at ourselves?
Let's try
Ooh,
this. Oh, yeah.
yeah. Oh God.
It's funny because the yoga studio where I do a lot of the True You stuff out of, the owner recently opened up, invited all the yoga teachers and movement and any other people who work out of there to do Facebook Lives for the community. And so one of the women reached out to me and she was like, oh, I saw your thing. It was really helpful. I'm really freaking out. I have to do mine. She's like, what's it like having to stare at yourself the whole time? She's like, I know that's going to throw me. And I'm like, that's a really good question. What is that like? And do you know what I found is like, so two observations. One is so I can easily get distracted by seeing myself and my own criticism of myself. And I noticed that my speech pattern changes, my flow isn't as fluid. I had one time where the screen was turned around and I couldn't see myself, and there was a marked difference of the before and after. And so I was like, oh, note to self, I'm clearly doing the whole like self-critic, self-judgment thing here. And the other thing, my advice to her, because you can give it, but can you take it? I was like, it's just a really great opportunity to give yourself some love.
Mm.
To actually stare at yourself and just emanate love towards what you're seeing, which I'm trying to do right
Mm.
now. And it's really weird.
Yeah, that's really challenging. I was talking to a mentor yesterday and she suggested writing a letter to myself from the perspective of my 70 or 80-year-old person, the 80-year-old that's inside of me, or that will be inside of me, or does she already exist? I don't know. Anyway, you can go anywhere you want with that.
Yeah.
And I actually really broke down crying and was like, I don't know what she would say. Like I just had such a hard day yesterday, and it was after several other hard days that I was so depleted that giving myself that kind of love really wasn't possible for me right then. I know that it's a great idea. I have helped other people do it, and I have been able to do it for myself at times. But what I found yesterday was like, man, when I'm here in like the pit of the pit, I don't have that capability. I can't muster it up. Like I can't fake it. Right. Like, and so I think that's something that's, for me anyway, really important to know is like, when I'm in that place, I need other people to reflect truth back to me that I've kind of left on deposit with them about who I am, which is the reason it's so important to show up real in relationships, not faking it,
Yeah.
not being who we think other people need us to be or want us to be. Because if they're reflecting back my fakeness, that's not going to help me in the pit. Like I need capital T truth at that
Yeah.
point. So being able to sit here today and look at myself and go, oh, wow, something actually shifted, because I can offer love to the person that I'm seeing on the screen right now. I think that she's doing the best that she can, and that's not nothing. So, yeah. But yeah, I couldn't do that yesterday.
It's really, like, okay, so if you're listening to this, I'm really gonna say like, let's try this together. Like find a mirror, pull over on the side of the road, like pull the little dashboard down or wherever you are. Like
Yeah.
just let's try to hold our gaze for like 30
Yeah.
seconds because I know
Okay.
for me, it freaks me out. But let's try it.
Yeah.
Should we try it? Do you want to
Yeah,
time it? Because I feel like I'm gonna need
sure.
an end time on this.
Okay. Yeah, I'll time it. Hang on just a sec. And okay, go.
All right, I'm looking
I'm watching. I'm smiling
at yourself.
at myself. I think there's some Buddhist teacher that says that every time you exhale, smile.
Okay.
And then my yoga teacher recently said that one of the least known poses in yoga is when you turn the corners of your mouth up to your third eye. I really like
Okay,
that.
I did that on Sunday at True You.
Yeah.
Was it at the end
We're
of
done.
it?
It's 30 seconds.
Okay, I feel like it means to do that again because I was way distracted by it. That was like a cop out.
Okay. All right, we'll start again. Are we going to be silent and just look
All
at
right,
ourselves?
let's just be silent. Okay. Yeah, and so that was the warm up, guys. So we're doing this for real. Just be silent, look at yourself with some love for 30 seconds.
Okay, time. What came up?
I had to work really hard not to look at you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had to work really hard not to look at the clock.
Oh yeah. I was really tempted to be like, how's she doing with this? What's she doing?
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
but I did it. I stayed here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I was able to do it too. Maybe I even thought during the time like, oh, I'm surprised at what's coming up as I'm staring, like knowing that I was going into it as a practice. And I'm glad we had the warm up actually, because it felt like it kind of cleared some stuff away so that I could be really practice being present with this 30 seconds of staring at myself. And I was surprised that some of the affirmations that I've been practicing came up when I was looking at myself, like just staring into my own eyes, just looking at me. That felt really good. That felt really, really good. So yeah.
I felt like towards the end I was a little bit more present. So in the beginning I was like really nervous and sort of like, what's this going to be and what am I going to find and this is weird and you know the whole what's she doing kind of thing. And then I was starting to get present, kind of like that thing that you do when you are in like hyper anxiety and you start to like really just describe what you're seeing. So I'm like, okay, I'm wearing headphones on my head. My hair's a little bit poofy over here. It's a little bit undone over here. And oh, you can't see the top I'm wearing under my sweater. Like just sort of noticing what was. And then by the end, I was almost like, oh, I think I could keep doing this. Like, I feel like I still hadn't quite been with me, but I felt like if I was doing that for longer, I'd be with myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I think that that's really important to recognize. I mean, for me, what's important to recognize is I really struggle with presence over performance. And that pause with looking at myself and orienting myself to who I am in the moment felt really valuable. Like it felt like a practice that I could maybe do more of and see what happens. Like I'm curious. I'm curious from that one little 30 second or two little 30 seconds, but the second one in particular, that it felt really valuable, even though it was a really short period of time. I did wonder, like, I hope that somebody is actually looking in the mirror and they're not just staring at us.
Oh, I did. Do you know
That was one of the first thoughts, and I was like, okay.
That's so good. I'm glad you thought of that. And I mean, I was just worried about you.
Yeah. No, I was worried about everybody watching this. Yeah. So we got all the bases covered. Everybody's being worried about. So you're in good hands here at the True You Project. You got one of two chances of being worried about.
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah, that's hysterical. Oh man.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay, so I'm like this, by the way, totally unplanned, right? Like this was not. We didn't think, oh, let's stare at ourselves today, and we were actually. I
probably wouldn't have been on the call if we said we were going to stare at ourselves. I would have been like, oh, sorry, not today.
Yeah. But what a great like thing to know, right? That, hey, I don't like, it's like the fear of it is what stops us, not the actual doing it, right? Like yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really curious if anybody else tried it. Like, I hope that whoever is watching this will get in touch and go like, I did it and this is what came up. Like, not that there's a good way or a bad outcome or anything like that, but just like the experience of it. It feels really important to try.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely let us know. And I'm really curious, like, so tomorrow's Valentine's Day. We're recording this on February 13th. And Valentine's Day, but the whole thing of like love, self-love, and all that kind of stuff, which sometimes I think is a little bit played out. But at the same time, it's a really good thing to bring into the mix because it's kind of what we're talking about here. And we were actually we were thinking, oh, I wonder how this conversation might lead to this idea of shame, because that was sort of like our umbrella theme for the month. And I feel like we've just uncovered this linchpin of it, of just how easy it is to criticize ourselves, like to get so caught up in our appearance, what's wrong, what's not working, what could be fixed, the comparison, what's she doing? Is she looking? Are they watching? I mean, we've just had a microcosm of what, how it works.
Yeah, for real. We really have. And it doesn't stop. Like, I feel like, at least in my mind, that I have this kind of back burner thing a lot, where I might be, in the moment doing what I'm doing or feeling how I'm feeling or whatever. But I have this back burner thing, like, oh, I wonder what they're gonna think about this, I don't know, newsletter I'm writing or picture I'm taking or meal that I'm making or whatever. And I lose myself when I'm there. Like, I even put this in my journal this morning. Like, I just want to be present today. Like, if I can just be present to myself, then I'm actually not alone. Right. Like, because I have this thing that runs around like I'm alone. I don't have anybody to help me with all of this. I have a lot on my plate right now. It's too much for one person. And so I spin and cycle, kind of like what you were talking about. But the fact is, like, if I have me, I'm not alone. But if I'm in robot mode, I'm not. So that's what's coming up for me.
So does this practice of staring at ourselves, like, okay, so that is a legitimate practice that we can do. I don't make that a practice of mine, but I know people recommend that. Like, look at yourself in the mirror and send yourself love. And so, I mean, now we are forced to do that because we're seeing ourselves on video. So it's kind of the same thing. So I'm wondering, like, this practice but that's like a way to be present to yourself, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I think that, how we were talking last summer about how everything counts, and it might feel like this is something so small, and you could easily put it, cast it off into the insignificant category. Like, so what? But if you just tried it, or if you're going to try it after you watch us, like, I think that you'll see it's not an insignificant thing to stare at yourself and just see what comes up, and hopefully offer yourself just a tiny bit of like, oh, I am brilliant, or I am valuable, or whatever affirmation that you're currently practicing and trying on. So
the one so I'm practicing this as you're just saying that. I am listening, but I was like intentionally doing this. I realized like what actually I feel like I could celebrate right now is I feel like the inner critic is like dialed down a bit. So I'm not as worried of like the poofy hair or whatever. And so I'm just kind of like, oh, she's here. Like, and the affirmation that was coming up is like, I'm okay. Like, she's here. I'm okay. Like I'm doing this. We're here. I don't know that. Yeah.
I love that. That's really cool. Excuse me. What was coming up for me, I'm practicing the same thing that you just said. Like, I'm looking at myself as you're talking, and just to continue the practice. And one thing that I really struggle with, that I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person, is that I derive the majority of my value from what I produce, accomplish, and achieve. And it's just a big ball of wax. It's really hard to like separate out, get any kind of, I guess, love or truth or any of those things, peace, serenity, anything out of. And so I was recently listening to a podcast about the Enneagram, and one of the things that the guy suggested was going inside and finding your own value. And so one of the things that came up in that staring time was that I'm valuable. And I looked at myself and I was like, I'm valuable. Like, I'm valuable. Is that true? Like, just to try it on, kind of like you would kind of, if you've ever done like that Buddhist meditation where you eat a raisin and you just put it on your tongue and you roll it around and feel all the wrinkles and all that kind of stuff. Have you ever tried that?
Can't say I have. No.
Okay. I don't know. I read it in a book years ago, and the boys and I tried it.
Did you do it?
Like, this is, oh yeah. And the boys were like, this is so weird. And I was like, I think this is really cool, because if you're focusing just on that one thing, it's amazing what will come up. And I think that's just what we're talking about, right? Like, we're just talking about focusing on you and seeing what comes up. Because my first tier of thoughts is like, ooh, I have a little more of a double chin than I thought. And, like, I don't know about this hair, and I should have done something different. Like, that's so easy for me to go to that kind of the constant inner critic chatter if I want to land there. So practicing maybe a detour feels really like that. Knowing that I can practice a detour while looking at myself in the mirror, that feels really, really cool.
And the crazy thing is that the detour, it's not avoidance. It's actually connecting. It's actually making the time to be present to yourself is the detour, which is kind of ironic, right? Because you kind of think that the detour normally is like, go over here and like avoid, distract, fix, change.
Yeah. Yeah. But maybe this is the actual road. Maybe we've been on a detour all along with the inner critic. Maybe it's, been distracting us from the actual journey, the actual path.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I get that. That makes
an idea that's coming up. So yeah. I think that it's important to recognize, like, the inner critic is going to be there. We all have it, and it doesn't matter what it's a function of or where we gathered all of those messages, but we always have a choice. Like, we talk a lot about choice, but how pivotal that is, in what we're gonna pay attention to, it didn't feel like I was actively trying to not listen.
Say that again. I just missed the end of what you said about the choice.
I just said the pivotal is always in the choice.
What
we're gonna listen to. So yeah. I don't know.
So, I had this, I met with a client this morning, and we were talking about self-love, and it was a dude, and he was actually saying how he is kind of getting more awareness of how much he's given in all his relationships. And he's never really given that same amount of love and care to himself. And we talked about too, how sometimes when we have hurt and we have pain and we have a broken heart, we can try to protect that and guard that by doing what we think is going to keep us safe. So maybe it's give more, right? But that actually then that still kind of leaves you out of the equation. And so he was just very aware of, like, I just need to love myself more. And I don't know how to do that yet, but I like that's kind of his next right move. And it's just interesting that this is kind of where the conversation was going, of like, having a really practical, weird
Mm-hmm.
way of cultivating that love for yourself. What's making me bring this up is, what he was saying is like, I would ask him a question and he could never answer it for him. I could answer it in context of her,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but I can't answer it in context of me. And I think that is where there's so much, that disconnection too, is where there's so much space for the critic to come into play, and the shame, because if we're like so disconnected from ourselves, and so anytime we're looking from across and not from within, what we're going to
Mm-hmm.
see is this like outside view of it, and not really
Mm-hmm.
like integrally knowing ourselves in the way that we might want to know a partner and have that deep intimate connection with them if we don't have that with us. So I don't know. That was all coming up for me in this whole thing that we've experimented with.
Yeah, I think and that goes back to the alone thing, right? Like if you can't say it for yourself, and you can't, like, if you can only say it in context to other people, then you don't have you. Like you are really alone, which can perpetuate that shame. I think that because then we kick into like, I'm going to do something to get out of this, rather than I'm going to connect with myself and I'm going to stay in it to go to another place. Because I don't really want to stay in what I would call like uncomfortable feelings. But
no,
it's just not a fun practice.
No,
it's hard to do solo. So yeah, but I think that can be a perpetuator of the cycle too. Like just recognizing, if I'm over here and I'm focusing all my attention on this relationship with this other person or these other people, then I'm not, then I'm perpetuating
I'm not present to me.
I'm not present to me. So I'm perpetuating my own aloneness.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So it's another way to pause. Like we talk about practicing the pause all the time, but this connected pause by looking at yourself is pretty powerful. We had no idea this was going to come up.
None. No, we totally, like you said, we definitely wouldn't be here if this was the plan.
I just would have doubted that anything could have come out of it. Like I've heard it, I've seen it. I mean, I've listened to people who talk about it. Like I do, I get ready in the morning all completely naked so I can give my body all the love. And I'm like, I give my body love, but like
clothes are nice.
Yeah. It's just the inner critic, the critic part just can be at the surface with so much force and momentum that, anyway, starting with just your face might be really nice.
Yeah. Well, try it. Let us know.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I feel like we're good to go, Liv.
I think so.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else. I mean, I love what came up for us.
Should we stare again? Should we do it again? And then we can.
Yeah. Yeah. You want to try you want to do a whole minute?
Oh God. All right. Why not?
We'll challenge ourselves with 1 whole minute. Okay. We're on. Okay. You heard it. That was a minute. That was uncomfortable. That was harder than the 30 seconds, I think.
Why?
Maybe because I knew how much longer it was going to be. I don't know. It was challenging. It was just challenging, like good or bad, hard to say. I can just say like that it felt a little more challenging. How about for you?
I was really getting curious about my facial expressions because, you know, when you're talking with someone else, you kind of can like mirror, I don't know, there's more interaction. I don't know. Maybe that's not always true. Anyway, but I was just noticing, and I've been thinking about this recently, like my default face is not that really simple yoga pose, right? like my default isn't necessarily to walk around with this huge smile on my face. I'm usually quite like withdrawn and kind of like thinking and like, you know, furrowing kind of thing. And so I was just, as I was watching myself, I was kind of like, what am I reading on my own face? If that makes sense. Like, and it was just like a new way of kind of looking into myself of like, oh, like, why does she have that face on? And, but it felt almost empowering to almost give permission for it, because at first I could feel I was trying to like smile a little bit. And then I'm like, well, why are you trying to do that? Like, what if you just were natural? Then you could just be yourself in that. And it feels like that there was something powerful in there of just that whole like trying too hard thing, especially with other people. So it's like, well, what if I didn't have to try hard with myself? Right? Like maybe that's the starting point.
That's good. That is really good. Like I could just be.
Yeah,
right?
with
like,
myself. Like if I could do that, then it's probably going to be a lot easier with other people.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Oh, yeah. Well, I hope that people are going to chime in. I really want to hear about their experience with this little practice that we just developed on the Real, Raw, and Related conversation.
Yeah. Nothing like being real and raw, which is unplanned. And so I get to watch our process. So cool. Right. Well, yeah, let us know and stay tuned, and we'll be back with more soon. Who knows? All right. Lots of love. Bye.